Hey everyone, we're going to be doing a basic photo restoration in this demo. At some point you're probably going to be asked to restore a photo, whether it's from a relative or a client, and it's good to know how to do this. Plus I'm going to go through and introduce some new things, or maybe they're a review for you, and some keyboard shortcuts, and hopefully this will be helpful for you. So this is where I was at after I spent some time using these adjustment layers to get this to look like a regular photo. What I started with actually was photographing the negative that I found in a box with my camera, and then so I had this photo, this file right here, the background, first layer. So I'm going to option click, and that gives me where I started, this old battered color negative. From there, I just drag the background down to make a new layer, a duplicate layer, and went up to image adjustments, invert, or just simply Command I inverts it. And so there you have a background copy of that layer, which I renamed by double clicking, and then you can rename it. This one, since I'm just showing you, I'm just going to throw it away and click on this same thing that I just did, so that we have a positive image, and it's way off color wise. So went in here and clicked on a color balance layer. There's tons of different ways that you can do this in Photoshop, but today we're just going to be using the color balance tool. So that is this layer, and if you click on this icon, it brings up the properties of this. A good way that I've found to do this is to select in here, just click and drag, and then you can use the arrow keys to go up and down. You can use the click and drag method, but for finer adjustments you can just use the arrow keys going up and down. And then when you want to go to the next selection, use the tab key and you can just toggle through these and make the adjustments that you need. And next I went to a curves adjustment layer, which again is just right here, and that gives you a new curves layer, or whatever layer you select there. I'm going to undo here, Command Z, what I just did. Since I don't need that, I'm just going to show you this one that I already had. So this is what this curves layer did, and if you click on this icon, it'll show you what that looks like. And what I did was use this, there we go, the white point dropper. So if you use the Z key and zoom in, you see I found this stripe on the former roadway that seems like it's a good white point. And you can play around with this and click on different areas in the image, and there's not always going to be a good spot that's pure white. So they give you a mid-tone and a shadow eyedropper also. But for this one, it seemed like this area was pretty good. So we'll go back to the eyedropper, which is I, and just click there. And Command 0 to get it to fit in the window again. And that's what that one did. So at that point I didn't think that that was looking correct, so I did another curves layer, and now you're looking at the previous curve, not this one. You're not on this layer, so you have to click here to see what that curve looks like. And you know what, I'm just going to turn this one off, go back down here, do another curves layer starting from scratch, so that I can just show you some of what I did. So this, you can drag, and that brings the whole thing down. This is the mid-range of the image, the tonality here. And if you point your cursor down here and click again, and use your arrow keys if you want, or you can drag it up and down, and you can see what that's doing to the shadows. So down here, that's in your shadows, and you can use the arrow keys to fine-tune it. And it's looking a little blown out in the highlights up here for sure. So we're going to come up here and bring that down a little bit. And then just fine-tune this as we see fit. This is the top of the highlights, and you don't want to bring this down too much or it'll flip out all of your information in the highlights and just make everything all flat. But you can add another curve up here, another point up here in the curve and bring those highlights down just a little bit. So let's see what that one compares like to what I did before. Pretty close. And so I didn't think that that one at this point was color correct enough, so I did another color balance and click on the properties. It's a minor one, but you can see that it did a little bit. And then another curve, brought it down a little bit, and I think that at this point it's looking pretty good. You can constantly play around with this stuff and come back to it later if you don't know where to stop messing with it, because it's infinite and it's subjective. So what I did here was made another layer that combines all of these layers. And how I did that was a new layer, and then Command Option Shift E. And that's a copy of all of this below. And that just kind of gives you something to work on and without all the confusion of all this. And you can name that, it's called Stamp Visible. At this point, things are looking alright, but if you zoom in, you're going to notice that you have a lot of what looks like pixelated stuff in the sky. And what that could be from is over sharpening and or JPEG artifact. But at any rate, it doesn't look good. So we're going to go into a little selection, and we're going to use the W key to go up here and do the quick selection tool. And you can, there's a few of these in here. The magic wand is kind of the old school way, and we use the quick selection tool. So what this does is just helps you select, and it's a smart tool. So you can go up to the size, and we're going to be selecting a really big area. And so we'll just go like this, and we'll add, and you can see that it's selected. Let me back up here. If I hit the F key, that brings us into a full screen mode, and it's a little easier to see. And then Command 0 brings everything back to looking at the whole image. So you can see we selected most of the sky here, and over here though, it's not looking so good. So if we go back to our selection tool, we can refine this by using the Option key to subtract, or painting in to add. So up here in the properties, we have the brush size, which for selecting a huge area like the whole sky, a larger size was good. But coming in here and refining the edge, probably going to want something a little smaller. And we enter, and then we can add with a little more precision. And you can use the bracket keys to increase and decrease the size of your brush. But this area in here should probably be part of the selection, part of the sky. So you can just brush that in. This is a cool, rather new tool that they've added for selecting. And this, it might look good to have that selected, but if you option, you can have that not part of the selection. And then what we're going to do is go up here into our filters and going to just blur out all those pixel imperfections. And you can see there's preview, just kind of cleans things up in there. And this isn't a very high resolution image, and it gives you an idea on when you're working with a lower resolution image, the kind of problems that you have with this pixelation in the sky and stuff. But if you add a blur to it, that takes some of it and smooths that out. But then you're kind of looking at a sky that just looks all smooth and not exactly matching what you see in here. You can see some of the film grain in there. So we can go in and add some noise. And you're going to want to start with something pretty low. And if you preview, you can toggle that off and on and see what that does. It just kind of matches the look. If you were to go way up here, yeah, not so much. So we'll just do a kind of a minor amount, let's say 1.5. And click OK. And if we zoom in to 100%, which you can also shortcut using Command 1, so that's 100% size on the image. You can also, I'm going to go back to the zoom tool. If we wanted to hide our selection area, which is this row of marching little ants, Command H will let you hide that. And you know what? I'm thinking that we had a little bit too much noise. So I'm going to go Command Z. Hang on. I'm going to go back to Command H with our selection. And you can see that when I hit Command Z, which is undo, I undid the add noise. So we're going to go back up here to filter, noise, and we're going to take this down to just 1. And H, oh, it's a little better.